Ever get the feeling you're watching a movie with the brakes on? Like every fight, every decision, every line of dialogue had to pass through a political filter before making it to the screen? Well, you're not imagining it. Welcome to modern Hollywood, where storytelling isn't just about characters and stories anymore. It's about checklists. And nowhere is that more obvious than in the Star Wars sequel-trilogy, a franchise that once defined pop culture, now hijacked by mandates that strangle creativity at every turn. Today, we're breaking down the unspoken rules that poison these movies, the invisible handcuffs placed on writers and directors, and how those rules ruined what could have been a powerful new era for the franchise. We'll look at Captain Phasma's wasted potential, Kylo Ren's oddly sanitized villainy, and why every major conflict seems staged to avoid offending anyone, at the cost of drama, tension, and authenticity. This is how Disney destroyed Star Wars. In 2012, George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney. And with that deal, Disney didn't just buy Star Wars, they bought one of the most beloved storytelling legacies in pop culture history. Almost immediately, Disney announced a brand new sequel trilogy. And instead of taking the time to plan a cohesive story arc, they rushed into production to start cashing in. J.J. Abrams, the guy known for slick visuals, mystery boxes, and nostalgia reboots, was brought on to direct. Abrams took the safest route possible. He essentially copy and pasted the structure of A New Hope, repackaged it for modern audiences. Instead of a farm boy learning the Force, we got a desert scavenger who's instantly powerful. Instead of an ominous Darth Vader figure, we got a moodier, emotionally reactive villain rebelling against his parents. A Death Star? Nope, this time it's a super Death Star. When The Force Awakens dropped in 2015, audiences were excited. The box office numbers were massive, and even though critics noted it felt derivative, many fans were just relieved that it wasn't the prequels all over again. But now, years later, we can look back and see the real problem. There was no plan, no roadmap, no guiding vision. Disney started building the house before they had the blueprint. Abrams made a film full of setups. Who are Rey's parents? Who is Snoke? What happened to Luke? But there were no answers lined up. There was no trilogy outline. And by the time The Last Jedi came around, the creative baton was passed to Rian Johnson, who took things in an entirely different direction, essentially tossing out everything JJ had set up. What we're left with isn't a trilogy. It's three disconnected movies arguing with each other, each one trying to fix the last. And the damage started right at the beginning, with a rushed, politically cautious remake that only felt like Star Wars on the surface. When people defend The Force Awakens, they often say, at least it's better than the rest of the sequel trilogy. And that's true, but not because it's well written. It's because it plays it safe. The Force Awakens survives by imitation. It copies A New Hope beat for beat, and in doing so, it avoids failure by refusing to take risks. But beneath that nostalgic surface, you can feel the creative restrictions of modern franchise filmmaking. Every idea filtered through marketability, sensitivity, and corporate risk management. Rey is the clearest symptom of that. She's not a character, she's a Mary Sue. She has no family, no defining traits, and no real flaws. She exists in a narrative vacuum where every challenge must be instantly overcome, because the film can't afford to let its strong female protagonist struggle. She meets Finn, a character set up to be her companion or foil, and immediately proves she doesn't need him. She can fight better than he can, fix things better than he can, and pilot the Millennium Falcon better than anyone in the galaxy, despite never having flown before. Even when the story tries to offer her a mentor figure in Maz Kanata, the moment feels manufactured. Maz isn't a teacher, she's a narrative shortcut. She doesn't train Rey, doesn't challenge her, doesn't change her. She just tells her what she needs to hear, hands her a lightsaber, and disappears from the story. And there's a reason for that. Maz was a deliberate workaround, a way to include a mentor figure without breaking the film's creative rules. The writers couldn't make Rey dependent on or instructed by a male character, not in a modern blockbuster built on the idea of an instantly self-sufficient heroine. So, the role that might have gone to a wise, older male mentor, the traditional archetype of Star Wars, gets reconfigured into Maz, a small, ancient female character who can offer guidance without authority, advice without hierarchy. It's a political compromise disguised as a narrative choice. Rey still gets her Obi-Wan moment, but stripped of any real teaching or vulnerability. Maz can point Rey toward destiny, but she can't actively shape it, because that would mean acknowledging Rey has something to learn. Mentorship, growth, humility, the elements that made Luke's journey powerful are replaced by instant self-belief. Then there's Kylo Ren. The movie can't decide what he's allowed to do. He's supposed to be dangerous, but he's not allowed to inflict real harm, especially on Rey. So the writers contrive a loophole. Kylo freezes her with the Force, reads her mind to discover the map, and puts her to sleep. But later, on Starkiller Base, when he tries to do the same thing again, suddenly Rey can block him, with no training. This isn't character growth, it's plot necessity. The story needs Rey to win, so she wins. The logic bends to protect her. Then Kylo just leaves. He walks away from his prisoner to tell Snoke how powerful she is, which conveniently gives Rey the chance to rescue herself. Meanwhile, Han, Finn, and Chewie storm the base. But their big plan to shut down the shields is reduced to forcing Captain Phasma, who is a shiny piece of armor and nothing else, to lower them at gunpoint. She's a checkbox, female in roles of leadership. She looks great on a poster, but contributes nothing to the story. And because the film can't let the heroes actually harm her, the scene cuts away. Finally, we get the lightsaber duel. Rey, with no training, defeats Kylo, not because she's more skilled, but because the story forbids him from truly fighting back. He's injured, emotionally unstable, and conveniently handicapped. And just as the duel reaches its peak, the ground literally splits apart to stop the fight. The universe itself intervenes to protect the protagonist. The film ends on a cliffhanger, Rey finding Luke on an island. No closure, no ceremony, no sense of completion. Compare that to A New Hope, which ends with a celebration, medals, and emotional resolution. If that film had never gotten a sequel, it would still stand as a complete story. The Force Awakens can't do that because it's not a story. It's a setup. It's 2 hours of prologue. And that's the tragedy of The Force Awakens. It's a film built inside a corporate cage. It's not allowed to challenge its audience, its heroes, or its legacy. It's Star Wars without risk, a story without consequence. In A New Hope, Luke's victory is directly tied to what he learns. Obi-Wan teaches him how to trust the Force, how to let go, how to act on faith rather than fear. That lesson is the reason he's able to destroy the Death Star. The story builds a clear cause and effect between Luke's growth and the final outcome. But in The Force Awakens, Rey doesn't actually learn anything that's pivotal to the climax. She isn't the one who destroys Starkiller Base. Poe does. And Poe's entire mission is essentially an imitation of the Death Star trench run, only without the emotional or thematic weight that made the original meaningful. The final victory doesn't hinge on Rey's training, her discoveries, or even her connection to the Force. Unlike Luke, her personal development isn't tied to the success of the mission, leaving the ending feeling less like the payoff of a hero's journey and more like a finale where the hero is on one track and the actual plot is on another. Luke was kept off the board not for the story's sake, but to manufacture somewhere to go and guarantee repeat customers. And that's just a marketing decision dressed up as mystery. A New Hope stands on its own. It's a complete story, beginning, middle, end. It sets up a myth, builds a world, gives us characters we care about, and then delivers real emotional closure. Luke starts as a nobody and ends as a hero. The Death Star is destroyed. The rebellion has hope. If Empire and Jedi had never been made, A New Hope would still be a classic. It is a classic, not because of its sequels, but because it is a timeless story. Then you have The Force Awakens, a film with 10 times the budget, 4 decades of lore behind it, and yet it plays like a cover band version of A New Hope. Same desert planet, same scrappy droid, same trench run, just louder and shinier. But unlike A New Hope, it doesn't end. It pauses. It's all set up. Rey is a mystery box. Snoke is a mystery box. Luke is literally standing on a cliff, waiting for the next movie to give him a script. Because The Force Awakens wasn't made to tell a story. It was made to launch a brand, to sell the next film, to keep the content machine spinning. It doesn't say anything. It just reminds you of things that used to mean something. It's not mythology, it's manipulation. A shiny nostalgia product with nothing under the hood. The Force Awakens didn't just echo A New Hope. It practically traced over it. And that wasn't nostalgia. It was a lazy, fast-track approach to push new Star Wars content out the door. Instead of taking the time to build a sequel trilogy with its own identity, the creative team was boxed in from day one by corporate pressure, strict mandates, and a we'll-figure-it-out-later mindset. What we should have gotten was a story that moved the galaxy forward. New politics, New conflicts, a new Jedi Order, not a beat-for-beat reboot. But with those creative restrictions, the film never had a chance to become anything more than a cheap imitation of something we'd already seen. We should have seen a future that actually reflected our heroes' victories, a galaxy rebuilt, a republic functioning, and Jedi returning as a force for hope. Their success in the original trilogy earned a brighter era, not another reset to the same old status quo. The Force Awakens is a film designed not around myth or theme or character, but around brand strategy, familiar visuals, familiar sounds. It borrows the imagery of Star Wars, but strips out the heart and meaning. It's not a story, it's a commercial. You can feel it. One of those lines is mythic, the other is marketing. Yes, The Force Awakens looks like Star Wars, but that doesn't mean it understands Star Wars. It doesn't believe in the Force the way Lucas did. It doesn't build a world, it recycles one, and it doesn't end with a message. It ends with a teaser. This wasn't made to inspire, it was made to hook you. A New Hope gave you a story. The Force Awakens gave you an homage with future purchases. But I'm afraid we're not done yet. Next time, we're taking apart the biggest lie of the trilogy, subverting expectations. Trust me, you'll want to see this. Until then, stay curious, stay critical.